In the wild Colorado mountains, a rare silver Mustang mare, the last of her bloodline, was about to give birth. But when her baby finally arrived, something happened that would leave witnesses speechless and scientists baffled. What they discovered in those first precious moments would challenge everything we thought we knew about the natural world. The morning mist wrapped around the Colorado Rockies like a silver shroud as wildlife photographer Sarah Chen crouched behind her camera lens. 3 years. 3 years she'd been tracking the ghost mare through these mountains, and today felt different. The air itself seemed to hum with anticipation. Luna, named by the locals for her ethereal coat, stood in the valley below, her silver-dappled hide catching the early light like captured moonlight. She wasn't just rare, she was irreplaceable. DNA tests had confirmed what Sarah suspected. Luna carried the genetic markers of the original conquistador horses, unchanged through 4 centuries of wild breeding. Less than 1 in 10,000 wild horses possessed her coloring, but it was her bloodline that made her truly extraordinary. She was the last. Sarah adjusted her telephoto lens, her hands trembling slightly. After 8 months of documenting Luna's pregnancy, this moment had finally come. The mare's sides were heavy with foal, and her small band had formed a protective circle around her chosen birthing spot, a sheltered grove of aspens near crystal-clear stream water. Storm, the powerful black stallion, who never left Luna's side, seemed to understand what everyone watching knew: this foal could be their final chance to preserve a vanishing legacy. His dark eyes constantly scanned the tree line, every muscle coiled with protective tension. Through her viewfinder, Sarah watched Luna pace restlessly, her contractions growing stronger. The 5 mares and yearlings in their band had never stood so still, so alert. Even the mountain itself seemed to hold its breath. But something felt wrong. Luna's behavior wasn't following the patterns Sarah had studied for 15 years. Most wild mares gave birth quickly. Vulnerability in the wilderness meant death. But Luna kept pausing, looking at her swollen sides with what appeared to be confusion, as if she was waiting for something that hadn't happened yet. "Something's different," Sarah whispered into her recorder, her voice barely audible over the mountain wind. "She's acting like she knows this birth will be unlike any other." Storm approached his mate, touching his muzzle to hers with surprising tenderness. The stallion's usually fierce demeanor softened as he nickered encouragement, and Sarah felt tears prick her eyes at the raw emotion in that simple gesture. As the sun climbed higher, painting golden light across the valley, Luna's powerful body tensed with another contraction. Sarah's finger hovered over her camera's shutter button, knowing she was about to document something unprecedented. The other mares pressed closer to their protective circle, their unease growing. In the wild, prolonged labor meant one thing: danger. Predators could scent vulnerability from miles away, and they'd been here too long already. But Luna seemed unconcerned by normal survival instincts. She moved with the patience of a creature carrying something far more precious than just new life. Her ancient bloodline had survived conquistadors, cavalry charges, and centuries of wilderness, but what was coming would test nature's boundaries in ways no one could predict. Then Sarah saw it. 2 tiny hooves emerging, covered in the white birth sac. "Come on, Luna," she breathed, her heart hammering against her ribs. With one mighty push, Luna brought her baby into the world. As the foal fully emerged onto the soft grass, Sarah gasped through her telephoto lens. This was no ordinary baby. The foal's silver coat held an otherworldly quality that seemed to capture and bend light itself. A perfect crystalline star blazed on its forehead, while 4 white socks climbed its legs in patterns too elegant for chance. But what truly set this baby apart was its size. Barely 2/3 that of a normal Mustang foal, yet it lifted its head within seconds of birth with impossible vigor. Luna turned to her offspring, and Sarah captured the moment everything changed. The mare's expression transformed from exhaustion to pure wonder as she began cleaning her extraordinary baby. But in that grove, surrounded by protective family and ancient aspens, none of them realized they were about to witness something that would shatter every law of nature they thought they understood. Storm snorted and threw his head back, releasing a thunderous neigh that echoed across the valley, a declaration to the world that his heir had arrived. But as the sound faded, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. The foal, barely 5 minutes old, was already attempting to stand. Most newborns took multiple tries, wobbling and collapsing repeatedly. But this tiny creature rose on delicate legs with supernatural grace, standing as steady as if it had been walking for weeks. Its crystalline star marking seemed to pulse with inner light, and those impossibly long eyelashes framed eyes that held ancient wisdom. "This is impossible," Sarah breathed, her camera clicking rapidly. The other mares broke their protective formation, drawn by irresistible curiosity. Each approached the special baby, their usual social hierarchy forgotten. They touched their muzzles to the tiny foal gently, as if offering blessings to something sacred. Luna positioned herself so her offspring could nurse, and the baby found its mark immediately, another sign of its unusual development. As it fed, its flowing tail swished contentedly, already longer and more elegant than any newborn Sarah had documented. But their moment of peace was about to shatter. 10 minutes after the miraculous birth, the grove fell unnaturally silent. Birds stopped singing mid-song, and even the gentle mountain breeze seemed to pause. Luna's head snapped up from grooming, her nostrils flaring as she scented danger. Storm's entire body went rigid, ears pinned back in alarm. Sarah swung her camera toward the tree line, her heart hammering as she spotted movement in the shadows. The distinctive tawny coat and muscular build of a mountain lion emerged from the undergrowth, a massive male, easily 150 pounds of pure predator. His yellow eyes locked onto the tiny foal with laser focus. This was nature at its cruelest, new life attracting death like a beacon. Storm exploded into motion, charging toward the lion with bared teeth and striking hooves. But the cat was too intelligent to face an enraged stallion head-on. It circled wide, patient and calculating, knowing the mare would be weakened from birth. Luna positioned herself over her baby, who pressed against her legs with newfound instincts. The other mares tightened their circle, but Sarah could see fear in their eyes. Mountain lions were apex predators, one of the few creatures that could bring down a full-grown horse. The cat feinted left, testing their defenses. Storm wheeled to block him, his powerful hooves striking sparks from stone. The lion retreated several steps but didn't leave. He had infinite patience, honed by millions of years of evolution. Then the impossible happened. The tiny foal stepped out from under its mother's protection. Luna nickered frantically, trying to push her baby back to safety, but the foal moved with that same otherworldly grace it had shown since birth. It walked directly toward the space between its parents, that crystalline star seeming to pulse brighter with each step. "No, no, no!" Sarah whispered, her finger frozen on the shutter button. She wanted to scream a warning but couldn't risk startling anyone into triggering an attack. The foal stopped 10 feet from where the mountain lion crouched, its delicate legs steady despite being less than 20 minutes old. Then it did something that violated every law of predator and prey Sarah had ever learned. It nickered softly at the mountain lion, not fearfully, not in challenge. The sound was almost welcoming. The predator's focused intensity wavered. Those deadly yellow eyes, locked on easy prey, began showing something Sarah had never witnessed in 15 years of wildlife photography: confusion. The cat's coiled muscles ready to spring gradually relaxed. Storm snorted aggressively, prepared to attack if the lion moved 1 inch closer. But the foal nickered again, this time turning its head to look at its father as if to say, "It's okay." The mountain lion sat down, simply sat, like an oversized house cat, his tail twitching uncertainly. His predatory instincts warred with something else, something Sarah couldn't name or explain. The foal took another step forward. The lion actually backed up. For 3 endless minutes, predator and prey regarded each other in impossible stillness. The foal showed no fear, standing with confidence that belonged to a creature much older and larger. The lion's expression had transformed from hunger to something approaching bewilderment. Then, as suddenly as he'd appeared, the mountain lion turned and melted back into the forest. Not stalking, not hunting, just leaving. Sarah's hands shook as she lowered her camera, knowing no one would believe what she'd captured without proof. Luna rushed to her foal, checking every inch while Storm paced the perimeter. But the baby seemed completely unaffected, returning to nursing as if confronting apex predators was perfectly normal behavior. But the strangeness was only beginning. Word of the encounter spread through the mountains faster than wildfire, not through human communication, but through something deeper. The wildlife itself seemed to know. By afternoon, the grove had become an impossible gathering place. It started with ravens, usually solitary and wary of horses, collecting in the aspens above. They didn't caw or fight over perches. They simply watched in unusual silence, as if attending a ceremony. Hawks circled overhead but showed no hunting behavior, their shadows passing over the foal without causing alarm. A family of deer emerged from the forest, grazing closer to wild horses than they would ever dare normally. The Mustang mares should have chased them off. Wild horses didn't share resources. Instead, they allowed the intrusion as if normal territorial rules no longer applied. Sarah documented everything, her memory cards filling rapidly. Day 1, Hour 4, she whispered into her recorder. I'm witnessing interspecies behavior I cannot explain. Prey animals gathering in predator territory, showing no fear response whatsoever. The tiny silver foal seemed to be the center of it all. When it wasn't nursing, it walked among the gathered animals with that same supernatural grace. A curious doe actually approached and sniffed the baby, while fierce Luna who'd kicked a wolf last spring, merely watched. Even Storm had stopped his aggressive displays, though his watchful eyes never ceased scanning for danger. As the sun reached its peak, a golden eagle landed on a low branch, another impossibility. Eagles feared nothing but never came so close to large mammals without hunting purpose. The massive bird studied the foal with intelligent eyes, head cocking back and forth. The foal noticed the eagle and walked directly toward it. Sarah's heart raced. Eagles could seriously injure young animals with those razor-sharp talons. Luna nickered nervously but didn't intervene, as if she too sensed this encounter was different. The foal stopped beneath the branch and looked up. The eagle looked down. For a moment that stretched into eternity, they regarded each other, the ancient symbol of American freedom and the newest member of America's wild heritage. The eagle spread its 7-foot wingspan, a display that should have terrified any baby animal. Instead, the foal nickered that same welcoming sound it had made to the mountain lion. The eagle folded its wings and settled back, apparently content to simply observe. This is unprecedented. Sarah breathed, her scientific mind reeling. Different species might occasionally ignore each other, but this active gathering, this apparent communication, it violated everything she understood about animal behavior. Movement in her peripheral vision caught her attention. 3 coyotes had arrived, sitting at the grove's edge like attendees at some sacred ceremony. They showed no pack coordination, no hunting behavior, just quiet observation. As Sarah changed her camera battery with trembling fingers, she realized she wasn't documenting a rare birth anymore. She was witnessing something that would challenge humanity's understanding of the natural world itself. But the most extraordinary discovery was still to come. By sunset, the impossible had become reality. Black bears sat peacefully alongside deer, foxes near rabbits, predators and prey in harmony that defied millions of years of evolution. The grove had transformed into a neutral zone where nature's most fundamental rules seemed suspended. Dr. Marcus Webb, Sarah's colleague and a respected wildlife biologist, had arrived after her urgent phone call. He stood beside her now, his lifelong scientific skepticism crumbling with each passing moment. There has to be an explanation, he muttered, furiously scribbling notes. Pheromones perhaps, some chemical signal we can't detect. But Sarah knew it was more than that. She'd been watching the foal for hours, and patterns were emerging that no textbook could explain. The baby moved with deliberate purpose among the gathered animals, spending time with each species as if holding court. And wherever it went, an inexplicable calm followed. Look at its markings, Sarah whispered, pointing through her telephoto lens. Have you ever seen anything like them? In the golden evening light, the foal's coat seemed to shimmer with an almost metallic sheen. That crystalline star on its forehead caught the dying sunlight like a prism, casting tiny rainbows across its face. The genetics alone are fascinating, Marcus admitted, his voice tight with wonder. That silver dapple gene combined with something else, something we haven't cataloged yet. Luna had relaxed her vigilance, finally understanding her baby was safer than any wild foal had ever been. Surrounded by nature's fiercest predators, all transformed into gentle guardians. Then the foal did something that would haunt Sarah's dreams forever. It walked to the center of the grove and simply lay down, its delicate legs folding beneath it with graceful precision. Within moments, the gathered animals began forming concentric circles around the tiny creature, predators in one ring, prey in another, all facing inward like worshippers at an ancient altar. My God, Marcus breathed. It's like they're protecting it. Storm took position directly behind his offspring, the powerful stallion standing sentinel over this impossible congregation. The other Mustang mares flanked him, creating an inner circle of family while wild strangers formed the outer rings. As darkness began to fall, something even more extraordinary occurred. The foal's coat began to glow, not brightly, but with a subtle luminescence like moonlight on still water. The star marking on its forehead pulsed gently, like a visible heartbeat made of light itself. Bioluminescence in mammals, Marcus's voice cracked with disbelief. That's impossible. Horses don't have the genetic capability for. Nothing about this foal is following the rules, Sarah interrupted, her camera capturing frame after frame of the impossible sight. The gathered animals seemed unsurprised by the gentle radiance. If anything, they pressed closer, drawn to the light like moths to flame. A great horned owl landed silently, adding its presence to the watchers. Luna lowered herself beside her baby, her body curved protectively around the tiny form. But her eyes held wonder rather than worry as she groomed the foal tenderly. Wherever her tongue passed, the glow seemed to intensify briefly, as if love itself was amplifying the miracle. "We need to contact the university," Marcus said urgently. "Get a full research team out here. Genetic samples, behavioral studies." "No," Sarah's voice was firm as steel. "Not yet. We don't understand what we're seeing. If word gets out, this place will be overrun with scientists, media, curiosity seekers. The foal needs time to be whatever it's meant to be." Marcus looked ready to argue. But then the foal lifted its head and looked directly at them. Despite the distance, Sarah felt that gaze like a physical touch, ancient wisdom wrapped in innocence, piercing straight through to her soul. In that moment, she understood they weren't just observers anymore. They'd been accepted into whatever was happening here, chosen as witnesses to something that transcended scientific understanding. The night deepened, but the foal's gentle glow persisted, creating an ethereal beacon that seemed to comfort every creature within its reach. Sarah documented it all with infrared cameras, watching predators hunt outside the grove, before returning to honor the unspoken truce within its borders. When dawn broke over the mountains with spectacular beauty, painting the sky in rose and gold, the foal had grown visibly stronger through the night. The assembled animals maintained their vigil, some sleeping, others keeping quiet watch over this sacred ground. As morning light filtered through the aspens, the foal stood and began walking toward the creek. But this wasn't the wobbly gait of a day-old baby. The tiny horse moved with fluid grace, each step deliberate and sure. Luna followed without trying to direct her offspring's movements. Storm and the mares created a loose escort, while the wildlife parted respectfully, creating a natural pathway. At the creek's edge, the foal lowered its delicate muzzle to drink. The moment its lips touched the water, something that would shatter Marcus's worldview forever occurred. The creek, running fast with spring snowmelt, suddenly calmed in a perfect circle around the foal. The rushing water became mirror still, reflecting the baby's image with crystal clarity. "Thermal dynamics don't work that way," Marcus whispered, but his scientific protests had grown weaker with each impossible event. The foal raised its head, water droplets sparkling on its whiskers like liquid diamonds. Then it turned to face the assembled crowd and released a sound unlike any hoarse vocalization Sarah had ever recorded. It was musical, almost like a chord rather than a single note, carrying across the grove with surprising power and beauty. Every animal responded. The birds burst into dawn chorus all at once, creating a symphony of different species singing in unprecedented harmony. Coyotes howled, elk boogled, even the usually silent deer added their voices. The sound rose and swelled, a natural orchestra with the foal as conductor. Luna added her voice, a maternal whinny that seemed to weave through all the others. Storm's powerful neigh provided a deep bass note that grounded the wild music. For one perfect, impossible moment, the mountains themselves seemed to sing. As suddenly as it began, the chorus ended. The animals fell silent, but the air still hummed with residual energy that made Sarah's skin tingle. She realized tears were streaming down her face. Beside her, the skeptical Dr. Marcus had lowered his camera, too moved to document what couldn't be measured or explained. The foal walked back to its mother, seemingly satisfied with whatever cosmic symphony it had just conducted. As it moved, Sarah noticed something that made her gasp. Where its tiny hooves touched the ground, the grass seemed greener, more vibrant. Life responding to life, healing spreading with every step. "It's not just special," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. It's healing something, bringing balance back to a world that's forgotten how to listen." An old Native American legend surfaced in her memory, stories her grandmother had told about spirit horses that appeared in times of great need. Bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds, bringing harmony when the earth itself cried out for healing. She'd always dismissed them as beautiful mythology. Now, watching this tiny foal nurse while surrounded by impossible peace, Sarah understood that some truths were too large for science to contain. Some miracles could only be witnessed, never fully explained. The foal had transformed them all, every creature in that grove, including her. They'd seen something that would change how they understood the very nature of existence itself. But as the sun climbed higher and some animals began returning to their natural patterns, Sarah realized the greatest test was yet to come. The outside world would eventually discover this miracle, and not everyone who came would have pure intentions. 3 days had passed since the miraculous birth, and the grove had settled into a new rhythm, one that defied everything Sarah thought she knew about the natural world. Animals still visited throughout the day, drawn by something they couldn't name but couldn't resist. The foal had grown stronger, nursing regularly and beginning to play, though its play included prancing through wild flower patches that bloomed more vibrantly in its wake. Sarah had made the most difficult decision of her career. Her footage would remain private, shared only with a select group of scientists, sworn to absolute secrecy. The foal needed protection, time to grow without the world's interference turning this sacred place into a circus. Marcus had agreed, setting aside decades of academic ambition for something greater than career advancement. They'd become guardians of a secret that could change humanity's understanding of life itself. Through careful observation, they'd documented remarkable patterns. The foal's unusual abilities seemed directly tied to its emotional state. When content, that subtle glow emanated from its coat like captured starlight. When it played, flowers bloomed and butterflies gathered in spirals of color. When it called, animals came, not compelled, but invited. Luna had proven an exceptional mother, fierce in protection yet allowing her special baby the freedom to explore its extraordinary gifts. Storm led the band with renewed purpose, keeping them in the sheltered valley rather than following traditional grazing patterns. The other mares had become devoted aunts, each playing a role in raising this remarkable child. On this particular morning, Sarah watched the foal interact with an injured hawk they'd discovered the day before. The bird's wing had been damaged in what appeared to be a territorial fight. By all rights, it should have been defensive, frightened by the approach of a large mammal. Instead, it sat calmly as the foal approached with infinite gentleness, sniffing its damaged feathers with the care of a healer examining a patient. What happened next made Sarah grab her camera with trembling hands. The foal touched its tiny nose to the hawk's injured wing, and that soft inner glow intensified around the point of contact. Light seemed to flow between them, not harsh or blinding, but warm and golden like honey made of sunshine. The bird stretched its wing experimentally, then fully extended it without pain. With a cry that sounded almost like gratitude, the hawk launched into flight, circling the grove once before disappearing into the vast blue sky. "It's not possible," Marcus said for the 100th time, but his tone had evolved from denial to pure wonder. He was no longer fighting the evidence before his eyes. The foal pranced back to its mother, clearly pleased with its work. Luna nickered proudly, and Sarah caught what looked like deep understanding in the mare's intelligent eyes. Perhaps Luna had always known her baby would be special. Perhaps that's why the pregnancy had lasted longer than normal, why the birth had felt different from the very beginning. As afternoon light painted the grove in golden hues, the foal did something that would forever change Sarah's life. It walked directly to where she and Marcus sat observing, stopping just inches from her outstretched hand. Up close, its eyes held depths that seemed ancient despite its youth, wisdom wrapped in innocence, knowledge that transcended its brief existence. The baby reached out with its velvet muzzle, touching Sarah's palm with gentle curiosity. The contact sent warmth flooding through her entire body, but it wasn't just physical heat. Every worry, every fear, every doubt that had ever plagued her seemed to dissolve like morning mist. In their place came certainty as solid as mountain stone. The world needed this foal, and it was her sacred duty to protect it until it was ready for whatever destiny awaited. "We'll keep you safe," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "until you're strong enough to do whatever you were born to accomplish." The foal nickered softly, a sound like wind chimes made of pure joy, then pranced back to its family with that otherworldly grace that never failed to take her breath away. Storm approached his offspring, and they touched foreheads in what had become their daily ritual. Each time, the massive stallion seemed to stand a little taller afterward, as if receiving strength and purpose from his remarkable child. As evening approached, Sarah noticed something that filled her with both hope and heartbreak. Where the foal had played throughout the day, the grass grew greener and more vibrant. Flowers that had been mere buds that morning now bloomed in full glory. Even the streams seemed to run clearer and more musical. The foal wasn't just healing individual creatures, it was healing the land itself. "Look at the biodiversity changes," Marcus whispered, consulting his field notes. "Species that haven't been seen in these mountains for decades are returning. The ecosystem is regenerating at an impossible rate." Sarah nodded, understanding finally dawning like sunrise after the longest night. This wasn't just about one miraculous foal or even the preservation of an ancient bloodline. This tiny creature represented something far more profound, a bridge between what was and what could be, a living reminder that miracles still existed in a world that had nearly forgotten how to believe. As the sun began its descent behind the mountain peaks, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, the Mustang band moved together toward the valley's heart. The foal walked between its parents, silver coat shimmering with inner light, that crystalline star marking bright with infinite promise. Other animals followed at a respectful distance, not trailing, but accompanying. A great horned owl glided silently overhead. Deer stepped delicately through the trees alongside them. Even a family of foxes emerged to witness this evening procession. It was a parade of species, Sarah realized. A celebration of life itself. As they crested a small rise, the foal turned back toward where Sarah and Marcus still sat, struck motionless by the beauty of the moment. Those ancient eyes met hers across the distance, and Sarah felt a message pass between them without words. This is just the beginning. The Mustang family disappeared over the ridge, heading deeper into their protected valley. But Sarah knew with absolute certainty they would return tomorrow, and she would be waiting. She had found her true calling at last, not just as a photographer documenting nature, but as a guardian of wonder itself. Some stories, she understood now, weren't meant to be fully explained or dissected. They were meant to be cherished, protected, and allowed to unfold in their own miraculous time. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and cynicism, this foal represented something humanity desperately needed. Proof that magic still existed, that healing was possible, and that sometimes the most profound truths came wrapped in the smallest, most vulnerable packages. Marcus began packing his equipment, but he moved differently now, with reverence rather than scientific detachment. What do we tell people when they ask what we discovered out here? Sarah smiled, watching the last golden light fade from the mountain peaks. We tell them we witnessed a miracle, and if they're meant to understand, they will. The stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky, and somewhere in the protected valley below, a special foal rested safely between its parents, growing stronger each day. The ancient bloodline would continue. But more than that, hope itself had been reborn on 4 delicate hooves. In the weeks that followed, subtle changes rippled through the mountains. Wildlife conflicts decreased. Injured animals appeared at ranger stations with mysterious healings already in progress. Flowers bloomed out of season. Streams ran clearer. Local Native American elders began speaking of old prophecies fulfilled, of spirit horses returning when the earth needed healing most. They understood what science was still struggling to accept, that some gifts transcended explanation and required only gratitude. Sarah continued her vigil, documenting not for publication but for preservation. She had become the keeper of a secret that belonged not to her but to the world, when the world was ready to receive it. And in her heart she knew that day was coming. The foal was growing stronger, its abilities more pronounced. Soon, very soon, it would be time for the miracle to step out of hiding and remind humanity of the wonders that still existed, waiting patiently for us to remember how to see them. Until then, she would wait and watch and protect, guardian of hope incarnate, witness to the truth that love in all its forms truly could heal the world.